All right. So this is being recorded. I'm going to spend the rest of my energy today getting things edited and put up and things. So first, I want to know how many people here actually joined the event through the technician forum link, the event link that was posted there. All right, I see 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you can also vote with your hands up on your keyboard there. There we go. Okay, so it worked pretty well. That's new to us. We're trying to get the community forum working up there. I will, like I said, put a link to this video in there as well, but I think YouTube is going to be hosting all of it. It just won't be listed for everyone. There's Juliana. Hi. That's better. Okay, let's see, open queue. Let's see if I can put down everybody's hands. Let's lower all. There you go. All right. This is fun. I feel like I'm a teacher in class. All right, class, raise your hand. All right. Time out for. Okay. So now we can talk about things that could get me in trouble if I talked about them openly on the internet. And let's talk first about the new Amara firmware. If you have a machine that's less than 2 years old, you may want to jump on the firmware, which I'm going to the Handy Quilter website right now. I think it's 4 point. So you go under the machines, resources, and machine software updates. If you have an Amara 2024 or Forte, technically, there is a 4.85 release out there. Now, I'm still trying to get the official engineering details of what's going on with this. I was a little upset, a little bit more than upset, when I've been tracking down some flakiness where we saw even in the burn-in process, a couple of these machines, Melissa would do something with Pro Stitcher, move some stuff around, and then she'd do a needle up, needle down to start a block, and then needle would just keep going. Now, I had dealt with that same thing with people, and all I could tell them is restart your machine and whatever. There's also another problem that some of these Amara machines have, because during COVID, they ran out of a certain type of parts, so they had to start building a board with different parts for the motor driver board, and that led to the needle overshooting sometime. After long runs, the parts would heat up, and it would cause the needle not to stop right, and it would overshoot. Okay, so we knew about that one, and I knew they were working on firmware. The first attempt didn't quite fix it, but I didn't know about some of these other issues, and I still don't understand how Pro Stitcher could trigger a situation in the machine that would cause the machine to basically ignore the needle up, needle down, or go into some mode. I'm trying to get that detail, but what really upset me is this was released in November.
So, yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. I'm sorry. I think I posted a question on the technician forum. You probably haven't had time to go look, but can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Keep going.
I'm sorry. And I was wondering, is this a new firmware update for the Amara that they haven't posted yet, or is it the one that is online that you can get?
It is online, and the date on the file was early November. And you know how things get busy. You know, I don't go out and check these pages for each of the machines all the time.
Yeah.
And so I was upset, and the good news is we did have a meeting with upper management at Handy Quilter this week to talk about getting a better engineering communications path. There were other issues we identified that I won't publish out on the internet, but you know how we burn in all our machines before we give them to people. Well, we pulled a machine we bought a couple months ago, or probably a quarter ago, out of a box because we were going to sell it, put it on the table to start working it. And as it's quilting fine, and for Pro Stitcher it's fine, but we also all of a sudden noticed that the hopping foot, they also call that the presser bar going down, wiggled. Okay, that'll mess up the ruler, anyone doing ruler work, as well as may cause issues along the line. So it turns out, the short story is, somebody was new in manufacturing and was not shimming them properly, because when we asked for a replacement head after sending them a video, they go, yeah, that's not right. The next one we got was also bad. Okay. Now, to top this off, they sent us 2 more. Now, we waited, couldn't sell this machine for another week and a half. And this time, the presser bar, which has the threaded thing in there you're supposed to be able to adjust, they had used the red Loctite on that thing, so you couldn't adjust it on both of them. Okay, so these are manufacturing issues which tell me machines were shipping with these problems for the last quarter, and that they need to go back to do it. And I wasn't happy with how long it took them to respond and address it. So yes, I get on my, not everybody at Handy Quilter probably likes me, but I don't. If there's a serious quality issue, I don't care who's changed titles. I need to get in there and make sure that they're not shipping crappy products that I'm going to have to deal with later on, because I deal with even the stuff we don't test. So this is the type of stuff that, yes, I'll vent on this for those of you who are seeing this. It's not for republication on, we don't want Handy Quilter to take a black eye. Everybody has manufacturing issues. That red Loctite is used on the needle bar. That end goes in there. You Loctite it in there because it's not supposed to come out. Okay. I know how they assemble these head assemblies, but somebody didn't get trained well. It can happen. But the fact that I seem to find so many of these things, it gets frustrating. So, anyways, the firmware, back to the firmware, that was, one of my points where I got back in the Handy Quilter and said, this can't happen. You're costing me too much money and time, because I could think of a half a dozen times where I'd been troubleshooting this, trying to find it out. I don't just, the quick answer is to reboot, but Melissa was able to repeat it. And it was something about dragging, dropping a design within an area. Handy Quilter won't give me all the details, but I've got a video that, I might even post that to our forum here so people can see it. All right, so Bernadette. Paul, I updated my MOTT 20 machine, and now I get locked motors after I stitch out a design. This is happening every time I update it again, switched machine off completely several times. Do you know the issue, and is there a solution? So I will assume you updated to 4.85. Also, the laser pointer disappears.
Yes, I did, Paul.
Okay. That's interesting, because the laser point disappearing too was a problem prior to the firmware update that we had seen, depending on the position, because if the needle would overshoot a little bit or be out of position, it wouldn't turn the needle back on. But this just happened since, what was your previous version you were at?
4.8. What's it now? 4.87?
No, they have 4.85 right now for the machine firmware. They had 4.77 still posted, because you had to go at least to that if you were less.
Yeah, but there was one after that that is now not on there anymore.
Yeah,
and the one after that is what was on.
Yeah, like 4.81, I think they had. And that's the other thing that, okay, I won't bitch to you guys.
I'm sorry, Paul, I don't mean to interrupt, but the 4.81 that's no longer available should that be installed too?
No, from a patch, you're basically patching your machine. And in this case, if you were below 4.77, which is many years old, they wanted you to take it up to 4.77 first, and then take it to the latest. They've got instructions on here.
Okay, so if I don't, I'm assuming I have 4.77 because my machine's not 2 years old. But it will be, no, it's not 2 years old. So I can go from 4.77 to 4.85 with no problem.
Yes. So Bernadette, I mean, it does say that the 477 was released August 11th, 2023. I thought it was older than that.
Yeah, it was, because we bought the machine 2 years ago, next month, 2 years ago, and we instantly upgraded it to this latest version, which was on. I can't remember top of my head what number that was, but it was 2 numbers higher than the one that they're saying that you should have as a minimum. If it was 4.77, it was 4.79 or something. If it was 4.81, it was 4.83 or something.
I was going to say on my machine, I looked at that was the August update that I was looking at myself. I didn't see the 4.85 because you'd mentioned that on the technician's forum, and I could not find 4.85.
No, it's not published anymore.
Yeah. So just the 4.77 is there, and my machine is not at 4.77.
What if you've never updated your machine?
Okay. Well, part of this is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like I said, some of these changes that the firmware addresses came from the newer parts that were put on the board, so that when they started shipping machines with the Chinese parts instead of the Taiwanese parts, they started having issues because they were similar parts but have different specs. And I'm an electronics technician. I could go into the fact that the problem appears after you do a 10 or 12 foot edge to edge and the parts heat up, and then they don't shut off as quickly as the old parts did, which causes the problem. But anyways, I'm looking at their procedures here, but somebody said that they didn't see it up there. I'm going back to the Handy Quilter site.
Yeah, I said that.
Okay.
I was up there.
I had too many tabs.
As I saw it last week when I did it.
Okay, so I'm going to share this screen here so that we can go find it together. Okay. So in this tab here.
And that was in my MOTT question my technician forum question was, are you referring to an update that's going to be released? Because that was the problem. I couldn't find it.
Okay, so machines, resources, machine software updates. You don't have to log in. This is their site. And then you click here.
Right.
So here's 4.85. Now, they added this after I made a stink, but it still doesn't explain it well. Okay. So yeah, if you came on here, you'd see the 477 from August. But this came out, and you can see they didn't even list when this one was released. And when you download the file, well, I won't show that whole process, but when you download the file, you can see the date code on the file that you're uploading is dated November. So, like I said, if your machine's not having problems, I'm still of the school, you don't need to upgrade. You notice they say the 477 should be run before future updates. That's sort of their base one, and then they're patching that from there. And since everybody on this call probably has Pro Stitch, you don't have to worry about the Amara display code. But my issue and my commitment to you too is Handy Quilter has to proactively tell me up front when they do a release of software. Okay. Like I have heard through the proper channels now that if you have and none of you have them, but somebody may watch this, the new MOTT XL has a software update coming for it. Okay. That will be probably a mandatory firmware update. But even Melissa says the MOTT XL with Pro Stitcher Lite runs a whole lot better than the old smaller MOTT with PS Lite. We try and talk people away from, I mean, the MOTT 15-inch MOTT is great for a cheap all over manual thing, but we don't think it's worth putting a $6,000 PS Lite on it. So we steer people away from that. I do believe the MOTT XL is raised its quality level, its performance level, that it may be worth running the $8,000 XL at or on a $6,000 PS Lite. So what does that put you at about 14? You can almost get, you can certainly get a used Avante with a full-blown Pro Stitch or even a Fusion in those price ranges as well. So that's where things are breaking down right now. Any questions about, okay, so Bernadette, I might try reloading 4.77, shutting everything down, rebooting, then bringing it back to 4.85. What version of Pro Stitcher are you running on the machine itself?
Ooh, the latest one, whatever that is.
Well, hold on. Pro Stitcher Premium, the latest is 537, and that's
Oh no, sorry, the one before Connect.
Yes, that's 537.
Yeah.
737, and not to be more confused, that anything with the 700 is Connect. So you are still on
the one
Premium.
before Connect, the last one before Connect.
Make sure you're 537, and after you.
And actually, I looked it up. The update I had was the 0.78. That was what I was running for the machine itself. So should I go back to 7.7 and then go back to 85?
You could try. I don't know. The other thing I would check first is I believe there is a setting in Pro Stitcher right now related to the motors. I'm wondering whether you may have accidentally, and I'm bringing up Pro Stitcher right now to go into the settings, advanced. Okay, Dexter the cat is in here pawing me. Under general, there's a keep motors locked setting under the general option here. I can even share that and show you. Boop.
And my friend who's got exactly the same setup hasn't got this problem.
Okay, so check this setting right here.
Okay. Yep.
Because I haven't heard of your problem.
Okay.
Send an email to support@mkquilts.com if you don't find this thing solves it. And Monday we'll start working with you on some of the options, but it's not something we have seen. I will check with Melissa. I think she may be coming home soon. The shop closes. But yeah, that might somehow, you may have accidentally
Okay, I'll have a look.
selected that, is what I'm thinking right now.
Okay, I'll have a look.
Why can't I see that screen? Every time I try to see it,
Are you talking in Pro Stitcher on your system?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Which screen are you not seeing?
The one that you just posted or that you just had up to show Bernadette what you were talking about.
So you're clicking the gear, you're clicking advanced, then general, and it should appear.
No, I'm talking about on the webcast.
Oh, the website?
What you were just displaying, your monitor, what you were just posting. Never mind.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
I will reshare that monitor here.
There we go.
So settings, config, general. Are you saying you don't get that on your simulator?
Yes, I do, and I don't have mine set to locked.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
as
you want-
annoying as
you
I'll
want
get
the
out
top.
if they stay locked.
I don't know why you'd have it, but that'd be my first guess there. So, yeah, you can
I'll
see
check
it.
it out and send you an email.
All right. So yeah, I'm at 537.
Yeah, I am too. I went back. Too many problems.
Trust Melissa's guidance. I think she's so
Lesson learned.
she's teaching at Academy, and they want her to teach with Connect. But now that she's going through her training, she's finding all these things that don't work properly. That's anyway. Okay, don't get us on our soapbox. We did. I recorded the whole session with Andy Coulter. Nate didn't make it, but Amber, the VP of Sales, and it sounds like most of our problems are just with communication with engineering, and we'll see how we can work through that. All right. So yeah, needle overshoot. I talked a little bit about, circuit board. The thing that engineering should be able to tell me is from what serial number, when on the floor did they start putting in these parts, or when on the floor did they start experiencing these issues that require the firmware update? So I can tell my customers, check your barcode. If it says blah, 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 18, you don't need it because it didn't happen until 2020, just different things like that. Okay. So, I don't know. For most of you, probably don't care a lot about the PS Lite, but I just thought I'd also drop a little inside thing I heard about. We've all heard about the Chewy problems, expanding batteries and everything. I got my first indication that Handy Quilter may be changing vendors, and that they may start shipping non-Chewy tablets. And they say it doesn't require us to change anything. It had better be a 12-volt tablet. I don't know. We'll see. But I do have some spare Chewies that we've got for trade out. Melissa's tablet expanded. We're out of batteries basically right now. They trickle in. But watch your Chewy tablets, because I do think that form of the battery that Chewy uses must be problematic, because it's happening to some of the newer tablets as well. Does anyone have any questions or not know what I'm talking about? All right.
Questions is which version of the Chewy is or is it all the Chewies? Because I have a Chewy X or 10 or whatever.
So let's put it this way. I think if you've had your Chewy for more than 2 years and it hasn't expanded, you probably got a good battery.
Not quite 2 years.
Okay. What I've been seeing is at about the 2-year mark is when the battery starts to show itself, 1 to 2 years. Okay. Yeah, it's frustrating. I understand why Handy Coulter went with those. So, regarding the PS Lite, I know we took in a trade recently. So if somebody's looking for a equivalent of a Simply 16, it's the Baby Lock version. But this person bought a brand new machine, did some free, got 2 million stitches on the machine. She then bought Pro Stitcher Lite, and it would only work a little bit and then stop working. Her machine wouldn't communicate with it. We worked, sent cables. She had it sent in. The Handy Quilter came back. Long story short, we did find a intermittent connection in her machine that only affected the communications with that. We fixed it, but she traded it in on an Amara because as soon as she got in the studio with an Amara with a full-blown Pro Stitcher, she quickly noticed the differences. Now, what I found interesting with this Simply 16 on the PS Lite is it works, but they slow down the machine. The max speed on that machine, because of the weight of the Simply 16 or the HQ 15, whatever, these older machines that they're trying to support on it, is so much that they'll break the motors if they speed it up too fast. So I've got a really cheap, especially if you're in Florida here, starter system, but it was really interesting to see how that's going. There's a reason why we try not to sell those. Now the Moxie XL, like I said, is the replacement for the 18-inch Avante. It's $8,000 without Pro Stitcher. That's what we're going to be pushing to sell as our lowest machine right now. It's the best quality, and I think PS Lite is starting to work closer to a full Pro Stitcher, you know, stitch out and how the machines operate. So if you talk to people and they're thinking about getting into machines or whatever, that's going to be our story right now, just from a customer satisfaction issue. Oh, by the way, the way we found the problem in the machine was I had to open the side panel, and all I did was disconnect and reconnect one connector, another connector, and in the end, the problem went away, and we used some special solution, some contact cleaner, and we cleaned all the contacts and couldn't make the problem come back. So it was frustrating though, because it was obviously a pin in one of those connectors had just been corroded or intermittent in some way. But they drove it down 10 hours from Georgia, left it with me for a couple days, and it literally took me 10 minutes after they left. So I feel good about that. So that's why having the machine in front of you can be a real advantage. So anyone have any other questions? I am going to create a MOTT room like this, which will be open like this, but only people who, if I got to change it, I can change it. But Google Meet will let me create a Google Meet address like this one. If you look in your URL, is DMO-REGY-NUC. Well, I've had that for months because as long as you use it once within 30 days, it stays in existence. Okay. The benefit of this is that even on weekends where I'm not presenting, we may find it a opportunity to just have like a chat session room where you guys can get on here even without me and talk about things. I can send other people in here to do things, but it's sort of like those old, I'm sure we all know before the internet, the party lines, you know, where you'd call into a party line and talk to a bunch of strangers. Well, I thought this, since it doesn't cost me anything, I can set this up and publish it in there. And so by default, this current one won't be what we use when we go live here. We will have a separate listed one, but I do invite you, if you guys, even if you're talking to somebody and you don't have a Google account or aren't familiar with it, you guys can jump on and use it as well to talk about machine related stuff. So we'll see how that works out as well. Does anyone have any feedback on the community? I still have to round up some of my better videos and things and get them posted. I guess that's a no. All right. So right now we've got 14 people on. I will be posting the recording on this. Oh, I'm just hot. Hopefully this COVID thing doesn't hang on too long, but Are there any topics you guys would like me to cover? And I'm gonna try and do it weekly. Have something posted weekly if it's not live, at least, as we get this going, so that it stays my #1 priority. Thoughts, problems?
Is there any way that this will notify us if somebody's on? Like, if I decided I needed help with something, would the Google Meets notify everybody that somebody's there?
I'm trying to think of a way to make that work. We might be able to tie this just to the community space, so that people would have to post on the community that, I need help with this. I'll be on the community Google Meet for the next 60 minutes or whatever. And maybe, because if you're following the community, that emails out a notification. You get an email that a new posting has been done. This doesn't have a feature to like send out a text or anything. But so keep that feature in mind. There's a couple options there that might become available.
Paul, keep for next topic, if you want to just think about all these things. I am running tracing large alphabet letters on my Pro Stitcher, and then doing like a reverse applique kind of thing. And what I'm tracing out is those little bitty circles. They're 3mm circles all in a chain, all the way around the alphabet letter, each alphabet letter. So I have had to use Optimizer. I have had to drop my stitch speed down to like 36% or 34%. My what is the other adjustment that you can do? The jump,
Well, there's acceleration.
acceleration. I had to drop that down to like 14. And I also had to drop my cruise down to like 175%, or I would get motor errors, or it would stop operating the needle, but still act like it was stitching, and it would just keep going. And I would pause it and go back to run, and it would start stitching again, and it would do it again, and then it would do it again, until I readjusted and lowered the speed yet again, or something, a combination of all of that.
Okay, well, you mentioned a couple things. Now, this is a good, sorry, the cat.
Got
That really wants attention. So the most common problem for motor errors in tight, jerky stitching situations, change of direction, is motor torque.
I was going to ask you, do I need to adjust that?
So I'm going to open this up again and share it, because they keep here again, according to Handy Quilter, for people that don't know the whole history here, I'll bring this up. Here again, under config advanced motors, you have a torque limit. Okay. Now, they were supposed to have increased this in the version of software we're running and not having as many problems. But I would suggest taking this as high as 300.
It is.
Okay.
It's at 300.
Go ahead and step it 50 more if you need to. Okay. But so if it is a torque problem, and what torque means, people who will watch this later, is the machine is moving in one direction, and if you hit a bar, the motor's going to stop turning, which will draw more current, and that will indicate to it that you hit something, and the torque will disable the motors. It's a safety thing. Now, unfortunately, what we found out is a lot of these motors, especially on the newer tray, the silver motors, after a year of running, over time, depending how much it gets used, obviously, the motor or the motors in the carriage for the Pro Stitcher get worked in. So they start drawing more current just naturally. You know, they start running hotter. Let's say that it's not a defect, but so now all of a sudden it starts getting false torque triggers because you're changing direction or whatever, and the current, the amount of juice it takes the motor to turn, shoots up, just like if it hit the wall or hit something. So this had been a problem way back in earlier versions. So they would have us up that to at least 300 and the problem would go away. Well, they were supposed to have, and I don't know why they still leave it at 100, but in the software, they increased that torque value for the motors. So 100 equals 300 now, I would suppose. But anyways, they had fixed it. But I have seen this happen before where I forgot about it and it just turned into a situation of increasing the torque. Okay.
Okay, so that's for a motor error. What about the situation where it stops moving the needle but continues to run the pattern?
Okay. So
Because I'm assuming, since these are little bitty circles, to make them stitch out, I need to stitch a smaller stitch, more stitches per inch
Yep.
at a higher cruise speed to keep the needle from getting dragged. Is that a logical?
not if your regulation is working right, because people do micro stitching.
I know. That's what I was wondering.
That's very fine. And what's important there is you've got your X and Y encoder wheels. As long as they are measuring the motion, and they should be sensitive enough to keep the needle going up and down. Even Melissa runs at 13 stitches per inch by default. I've seen 18 inches being run by people. And if you're micro stitching, yes, you can turn up the cruise, but if you're micro stitching, you're probably up at 18 or, higher on the stitches if you're that tight. Okay.
Yeah.
So when your needle bar stops moving, it either thought it got a message to stop stitching, or it's not seeing the regulator data. Okay. Which is weird. Well, you also mentioned without the needle getting stuck. I would question that you don't have an intermittent encoder on one side or the other, because even if one has a problem, if the other encoder is moving enough, you'll still start getting stitches, but they won't look right. If one's...
No, I'm not. It literally, the needle literally stops, but the pattern is still running. The machine is still trying to advance the pattern, but no stitching at all. And until I hit pause and then rerun, start again without canceling, it will start stitching again, and then it will stop again and still run the pattern. And I hit pause again until I readjust all the stuff I was just talking about, and I keep having to lower it and lower it.
Does the needle ever stop down?
No, it always stops up, and because if it stopped down, I'd be really mad. I would have called you a lot earlier.
Think about the logic there. If it was an encoder issue, you got a 50-50 chance of having that needle down in the quilt when it stops.
Right, it
The
never
fact
stops.
that it isn't would tell me that something is telling the machine, like a button would press to stop stitching. Because say Pro Stitcher stitching long, you reach up and you hit the stop button on your handlebar. Pro Stitcher is going to keep going. It'll simulate what you're doing, what you're seeing right now.
Okay.
So
The communication to the machine is getting interrupted, but Pro Stitcher's still moving. And what would cause that would be
more like the machine is seeing a stop or being told to stop for some reason, which, until I totally understand what this problem I must have zoomed in on myself here or something. Sorry, I got freaked out here because I see my face real big. I didn't think the Pro Stitcher communication and things was supposed to affect the control other than giving a run or a stop or setting the stitch count. And clearly with this latest problem with the firmware, there's something going on there. So if you aren't at 4.85, I would try and go to 4.85 before we do too much else.
okay.
I can't see a bad cable causing it because you're not getting USB errors. It would interfere with the Pro Stitcher as well. So what I would like from you here again to support at mkquilts.com is to take a couple pictures of what you're doing, even attach the pattern if you would, because Melissa can always test it out, see if we can reproduce it. Because once you get a layer of software involved in anything,
Yes.
there are just too many lines of code, too many variables for me to say yes or no absolutely on something.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where this latest firmware one ticks me off because I was told it couldn't happen. And I don't like my life assumptions to suddenly be thrown into disarray, if you know what I mean. Okay.
I know what you mean.
Get this off my nose here.
Okay, I will document everything, all the settings I have it running at now, and include the digital pattern that I have created. I have it the file saved, and send it to you. Now, I've got it now so low that you can hear it's running behind me. I've had to sit, I can't leave because I'm concerned it's going to happen again. But for this particular run, almost, oh my God, it's almost done. It takes about 3 hours to do 3 initials. That's how slow it is.
So the other thing you can do too that's helpful, and keep them short and small, but a little video of it happening.
See, that's, if I've got it dialed in right, it's not happening right now. It hasn't, and it's very intermittent. So when it happens,
Okay.
it happens, but I'm not, I'm not encouraging it to happen. Let's put it that way. I'm trying to create 6 quilts with the same.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in a deadline.
Torque first, firmware second.
Okay.
I don't think it's cabling. If you're at 537, yeah, I just haven't seen this. This is sounding like a glitchy thing, but yeah, I'd love to know what you're doing so we could reproduce it
Okay.
in the lab here.
You got
Melissa's
it.
pretty good at checking things out there.
You got it.
And
If I can get it to reproduce and record it, I will capture it.
Okay. So if people are wondering what all this hand thing I'm doing is, I've got a fancy camera that when I have it locked, if I move this direction, it's going to keep me in frame. Okay. But it's also got a zoom feature that if you use a hand symbol, it gets pretty fancy here. So anyways, yes, I'm a nerd, but I try and get the fun stuff. Any other questions? I mean, this is really what, the in-depth discussion is really what these things are used for. I won't have all the answers, but what you hear in these discussions, I think, will make things trip in your mind better when you see them with your machine, or when you're trying to check things out. It just gives you a better understanding of things. And now Melissa tells me I've been doing this for more than 6 years, so I've retained something, but it still can throw me for a loop. So, all right. Yeah, we did our full hour here today. I guess I should finish up with my normal. I have no idea how this thing's going to really record. We use Zoom a lot, but this is just easier for me to deal with. We'll see how this recording comes, and hopefully I'll have it posted here. But for those of you who are watching this and are not as familiar, please make sure anything you send in to me or whatever goes to support@MK Quilts, because that's being monitored by Adam. I hope to have some other people, eventually maybe even paying some people on here to just sort of screen some of the calls. We don't have a ton during the day. Sometimes it can be 8 or 10, sometimes it can be 2, but I want to be responsive to people, and sometimes Melissa and I aren't available. So my goal is to have everything coming in through the system, and it automatically gets logged, and so that we can be more responsive. The fun part is, if it comes in from your phone number, from your email, I can see instantly that you're owners, and put you at the top of the list, and I do that. So, all right, everybody. Thank you for spending time with me. I actually feel pretty good. I do think this is going to be a success, and come February, if you could join and support. I know there's a cost involved, but I need to pay people. I'm not real good at invoicing people. People tell me that all the time, but I do appreciate your support, and a lot of you have been very supportive over the last year or two. So thank you. All right. Live long and prosper. See ya.